Question of gender has been exploited greatly. Wonderful sacred imagery of androgyny, which is the ultimate goal of all spirituality and all magic and all divination and all alchemy, is what we call androgyny. Not at a genital level, but at a spiritual level. The unification of the male and the female inside of you. That was the object of religion. That was the object of occultism originally. They don't want that. They want gender dysphoria now. They want to harden the masculine and weaken the feminine. So they play on these ancient mystical things. That's their job. They're not there to sell you products because they were millionaires in the first centuries of our period. In the early parts of this millennia, these people were already owning the world. That's only an ostensible concern to them. And that's where they get the money from, and that's why they advertise so heavily. They're into the cult of imagery, the cult of symbolism, to make sure that you are disassociated from your source and that your children are delinquent on the streets of the world. And that nature is subjugated.
Believes this deep evolved truth is under attack by a timeless resentment, relativism and cynicism, under the modern guise of the philosophy of postmodernism.
People don't understand that postmodernism is a complete assault on two things. One, it's an assault on the metaphysical substrate of our culture, and I would say that the metaphysical substrate looks something like a religious substrate, so it's a direct assault on that. And the second thing it's an assault on is everything that's been established since the Enlightenment. Rationality, empiricism, science, everything. Clarity of mind, dialogue, the idea of the individual, all of that is not only, you see, it's not only that it's up for grabs. That's not the thing. It's to be destroyed.
He believes that postmodernism was the hidden motivation for the pronoun law, and is an attack on the core structures of being itself. I assume that you're sceptical of the idea of the description of gender as a spectrum.
No, I'm suspicious of the motives for putting that idea forward. And I also think it's an imprecise definition. It's not a spectrum, because a spectrum is equally represented at each point in the distribution. So that's wrong. And it's wrong in the way that you would expect it to be wrong given its ideological basis. Now, you know, there's male and female and masculine and feminine are not exactly the same thing. And so, and that's a reasonable claim. And you could also make a case that too much masculinity without an admixture of femininity is a form of excess, and that too much femininity without an admixture of masculinity is an excess, you know, or is a failure. It's an extreme. But the obliteration of the distinction between male and female or masculine and feminine it's a psychological catastrophe, not least because those are arguably the most basic cognitive axioms. They're deeper than that. They're axioms on which our entire cognitive structure is predicated. And
yin yang.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I think that that's a consequence of our biological heritage, like the reality of sex. Sex is very, very, very old. It's a fundamental issue, and sex is fundamentally about female and male, and there's no getting around that. Now, as I said, you can distinguish masculine and feminine from that, and you can speak about the psychological components of sex as well as the physiological components, but the real radicals deny the physiological components. It's like, that's okay, except when they force other people to do the same kind of denial. Like, people are entitled to their opinion, but they're not entitled to put it in the law. And so that's why I was opposed to, not to transgender rights or to transgender people, or, I mean, that's a sideshow in many ways. I'm not trying to trivialize it, but it's not the main event. It's emblematic of something else. Otherwise, no one would have cared. And I just see it as fundamentally oriented towards destabilization and destruction.
He says to defend ourselves against resentment, we each need to identify it in ourselves, our shadows.
It goes all the way back to the Egyptians and the Mayans, the Incas. There's a lot of evidence that there was society on this planet prior to our written history, prior to what we know, probably, you know, as old as 10 to 12,000 years ago, and that would have been the end of their cycle. That was very advanced, and that knew of that energy, and that knew how to use it, and there's evidence of their passage. And this evidence is very, very prominent, meaning we're talking not just legends and text, but as well huge construction, huge buildings that are found all around the world, that many of them defy anything we could build today with our most advanced technology. And that's like straight up facts, you know, you can do the math. And when and so there's a lot of evidence that there was something very powerful, very advanced going on our planet very, very long time ago, and that we lost that knowledge.
And we're supposed to believe that Stone Age people, using fiber ropes and stone tools, did this. Who are they kidding themselves?
Okay, this is a 3/4 inch copper tube, 4 feet long, with a 1/2 inch steel ball bearing stuck to the outside. Inside the tube is a 1/2 inch diameter powerful neodymium magnet holding the ball bearing fast. It takes 8 seconds to fall straight down. 3, 2, 1, dropping.
By contrast, here is the vertical fall with just the steel ball bearing through the tube. 3, 2, 1, release.
Anti-gravity machine. And look, it's not attracted. It's just weird stuff. Eddy currents. Could do this all day. It's so cool. All right, see? Neodymium magnet, copper pipe, thick wall, type K. Special effects. But not special effects. This is actually happening.
Не понимаю. Теперь